You'll be fine. All right. But on the upside, I don't have to edit anything tonight, so I will be editing, not doing the boring life. Keep that going. Got to make Haley happy. I didn't do one last week, and she was like, "What the heck, Dad?" I was like, "Sorry, I kind of fell asleep."
It's on the computer. It never happens.
Oh, it's the worst, man. Like, you know, do you ever let your wife drive?
Yeah, every once in a while.
Okay, so do you ever fall asleep in the passenger seat while she's driving?
Yeah,
And
and I
you
jump for the wheel.
Or you just, like, you don't recline, and next thing you know, you wake up and you're like this, and your neck, and you're like, oh my god, my head just disconnected from my spine. That's the same feeling you get when you fall asleep at the keyboard. You're like, oh, you just kind of have to sit there for a minute and go, this is gonna hurt really bad.
Yeah, when you do, yeah.
And you're like, oh, you know, and then they just kind of look at you like, what the heck? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's show. How's everybody doing? We hope fine.
Yeah.
Checking in. Saw a Phoenix Gold shirt. Yes, it's a Phoenix. Easy, Christian. Big fan of Phoenix Gold there.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You should just send him a link to that shirt on Teespring. He would probably buy it.
You know, when you make them for yourself, it doesn't put them up so you can buy them yourself.
So now they've changed that.
Oh, have they?
You can actually design a store now and buy your own swag finally for
Oh.
the same. So you can do that now.
Good.
It's
This is
finally.
stupid.
Yes, it's very dumb. I mean, it's convenient and it's dumb.
Yeah.
So, but now you can do that. You still can't use the money that that they pay you to buy more stuff, but that
Which is fine, but
yeah.
like people are always like, I want to get the shirt. I'm like, well, I have to make it again.
No, yeah, but
You
now you
can't
can
just
actually
send
create
them
a store. So you should have John's car audio store. Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll work on that with him just for you.
I'll just send them to you.
I was gonna say, just send us the links, and
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll just, yeah. So anyways, welcome. I love that guy's name, by the way. Can't afford jail audio. He made that just for us.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So tonight we're
Kinda
on YouTube because we thought that would be a more appropriate place to have tonight's conversation. We have John Catalano from Amp Global here. He was responsible for Stinger for many, many years.
Mhm.
And when he was on here the first time, we kind of went down the rat hole of RCAs, and it was like, hey, you know what would be a wonderful idea? Why don't we get you back on, and we'll just talk about RCAs because you're super passionate about it, you really like them, and it's your thing. And it sounded like a great idea, and of course it took us like, I don't know, a year to get to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Between you starting a new position there and
Yeah.
having to do that, and then moving, and us moving, and it's just life,
Yeah.
life as it were. So we're here today. We got them. We got a bunch of RCAs on the wall, and we're gonna get started. So we thought we'd kind of start out a little basic and just kind of go over the basic premise of what an RCA, how it's used, the minimum, and then we'll advance from there. So let's get started. So basic RCA. What is first off? What do we need an RCA for?
Well, we're going to use that we're going to send signal from each component. So your source unit to a processor, from your processor to the next component, and so forth until it gets to the end of the chain. So this is your signal transferable. Transfer.
I'm throwing in the softballs. No.
So
So at a minimum, how many wires does an RCA need?
2
And why does it need
for
2?
one channel.
For
2
one
for
channel.
one
Well, okay,
channel.
yes, we're going to speak in the one channel, not left and right. We're just
Yeah.
one channel left. The minimum wires it requires.
Dose.
And what do those 2 wires carry?
Your positive and negative signal.
So, but isn't signal AC?
It is, but that's why it's audio. Otherwise, it would be.
Yeah.
Actually, it wouldn't even do that. The speaker would just go out.
They would
It
go
would
out.
stay there.
Well, it's flip-flops back and forth.
If it switched, but if it was DC, it would just go one way and stay there. If it's not alternating.
So, yeah. So we have a shield wire and then the main carrier wire.
Correct. Yeah, on a typical unbalanced.
On a typical unbalanced cable.
So basic RCA has to have 2 RCA. I mean 2
It
wires.
has to have 2 wires.
Okay.
Let me see this one.
And we could talk about maybe that's a good segue to
Basic 2-wire RCA.
a really cheap RCA will cheat.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll take a single negative wire. Let's say these are the same.
Okay.
They would have, like, the white wire would be, let's say that's the negative.
Yep.
And then you have a white and red on this one. They would tie the two whites together at a junction point, usually about that far down.
Yep.
And then only run one ground wire, or negative wire, and then two positives. So there'll be only 3 wires through the bulk of the cable. So you got a 17-foot run, you'd have 16.5 feet of 3 wires, and they just solder them in there, and then they join them, and they split them off to make the cable cheat.
Okay.
So a lot of cables where you see they have like this little rubber boot right here.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it split
I'm trying
off.
to think where I have one of those.
There-
Well, I mean, you have.
I took everything off, the markings off of these because I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
But this was it was just for an example. But yeah, they'll solder it there, and that's usually the junction point. It does 2 things. That's usually where it fails because it's a solder joint.
Right.
So you're running it through the car and you're bending it, and so that it breaks there. And secondly, it's horrible for channel separation because you're literally only using 1 wire for half of the signal.
For half the signal. Okay.
So it makes it.
Now, how would you tell if an RCA is built like that? Is there any
The
way?
only way you'd have to do is cut it.
Or
the price.
check continuity.
No, well, if it's not hooked up, yeah. If it's not hooked up to something,
Yeah,
yes,
if
could
you
check
just had
continuity.
both raw ends there, you shouldn't be able to if the
Touch
RCA is sitting there
to the two
to the
to
two
the outside.
shields. Yeah,
The
so if
shields.
it's not plugged in, the outside should not meter between one another.
Correct.
If they do, that's a telltale sign of a very cheap RCA.
Yes.
Right. And the price.
Yeah, but that's not
The price isn't necessarily. So
Yeah.
that's what, like I brought this cable right here, and then all I did is take the outer jacket off because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose it is? They sell this as a high-end cable, and it's $130 retail cable.
$130 retail cable.
Wow.
And okay, so we have just a basic end, 2 twisted wires. So this has the Mylar coating over it.
So yeah, it's a shielded twisted pair, but it's not even directional.
How is it not directional?
It's only got 2 wires.
Oh, so it doesn't have 3 wires. You have to have 3 wires to
For
be.
directional.
So the 4000s, yeah, they have 3 wires.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, can we talk about that for a minute?
Sure.
So why does it need 3 wires? What's the 3rd wire?
So the third lead, there's X1s.
So the X1s and the 4000s, for those of you playing at home, are
They're similar in the cable construction, but the ends are different.
totally different. Yeah, and those ends are a little tighter.
These are much tighter. They're gold plated. A little different grip to them. But if you want to hold that up to the
Yep.
screen,
So these are the cable. We typically use the
you can
4000s.
get it close, and then you could also show.
I don't know how close we'll be able to get. You can see the 3
Yeah,
colors
yeah,
though. You
yeah.
have blue,
let's-
gray,
you
and
hold this
silver.
next to it.
And this is just.
Look at the twist rate too. See how many twists per
Oh
inch
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
are on ours versus
Yeah.
that other cable.
Candy cane.
Yeah.
It's Christmas time.
So that the one in your hand, this one in your hand is only about 1.2 twists per inch. It's a very slow twist rate. Ours are closer to 4. So
This is when you get carried away on the drill when you're twisting the wires together.
yeah, but what that does is the whole idea is that the reason a twisted pair works is the interaction of when it picks up some kind of noise on one side, the opposite gets picked up on the other side, and they cancel each other out.
Okay.
So the higher the twist rate, the more chances you have of it rejecting that noise.
So when you see an RCA that has a loosely twisted pair,
they just want to say it's twisted pair basically, and it's kind of like cheap.
yeah. So like when you're looking at this pair, that's just $100-some-odd pair. You
They
kind of
twist it.
see when I do
Yeah.
it with the light. It's yeah. That's like 1 twist. That's not even like 1 twist per inch.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even. It's just
It's like
It barely
if you
twisted.
start here and yeah, that's about 1.5 inches per twist.
and
All
it
right,
doesn't
so
cost anything for them to twist it tighter
but it's
physically,
length.
but it costs them because it shortens the
cable.
wire.
Right.
The wire shrinks as you
Yeah.
twist it more.
Right.
So that cable stretched out. This cable's probably, if it was a 17-footer, it's probably closer to 19 feet.
Yeah.
So
It costs
That-
more.
that
It's an
adds
extra,
cost,
extra
yeah,
foot of
so-
cost. And that's something that a lot of people probably
And
don't
then
think
there's
about
3
either.
conductors in there, and this is just 2.
So what's the third conductor for?
So what that does is on a directional cable, so
Yep.
the direction that you would be going towards your next source, the extra piece is grounded
Okay.
and the other piece is not. So it only has ground on the side it's sending away from it.
Oh. Okay.
So what happens is if it picks up any noise on that radiated piece,
Right.
it gets shunted to ground back at the source. It doesn't pass it on to the next.
So it's not connected on one end,
Correct.
is what you're saying.
That's
So
how
there's
it's
3
directed.
wires. You have power connected, ground connected, and then at the source side,
You have an extra lead.
it's connected, and then it's not
On
connected
the
on the
other
other
side.
end.
Wow.
And if you've ever seen when we're wiring up the 4000s,
I got one open. Hang on.
you got one open?
Yeah.
Does it have a little flag on it?
Yeah, it's definitely
Throw it here. So on the 4000s, and this is something, so PAC used to just write on the cable the direction it went in, the direction it goes. Okay. So now they add the little flag. So it says here, connect to source. And
It's
so
actually on the cable too, but it's
Yes.
really small because the
it's
cable
really
is
small.
Right.
And some of the short cables might not actually, it's like right here in the print.
Yeah, you
It's
can
hard
see.
to
you
see.
Can, yeah,
Obviously,
you
you're
can
not
read
going
it.
to see it on there.
If you know it's there,
Yeah.
you see it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people wouldn't. They're
Yeah.
like,
Pay
"Hey, there's no
attention.
But they
line."
don't even pay
Yeah.
attention, so now they have a
Yeah.
flag on there so that you make sure, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, and if you run it the wrong way, it's not going to hurt anything. It's just not going to. You don't get the extra added benefit. of
Right.
it.
It's
So
going to be sending it back to the amp.
yeah. So
Or
well,
the
if it picked
EQ.
it up, yeah. If it picked anything up there.
So when you're doing an RCA that is directional, it is twisted, you have a radio, you have a DSP, you have an amplifier.
Mhm.
You're always going from source, meaning so you're going to put that source tag at the radio.
Correct.
You're going to put that source tag at the DSP,
Right.
and
Well,
then
the source is always the signal going away from it.
okay,
Going towards something else.
right,
So this goes to the DSP, this goes to the amp, this goes to the radio, this goes to the DSP,
okay,
and so on and so forth down the signal chain. How many pieces you have?
all right, well, that works.
Yeah.
So this is the 3-wire connection.
That is yes. That's so you have on that one they have a blue, a
Mhm.
silver, and a black.
Now the 1000 cable, which is your entry level cable,
Correct.
is just a standard coax
Coax.
style cable,
Correct.
and that's a center pin that's straight.
Right. So it has a center conductor, a dielectric, and then it has the negative is kind of basically wrapped around the outside of it.
So how does that work for shielding?
Well, that's the shield. So the outside being braided on the outside, that's
Right.
how it acts as the shield, and also the dielectric being separated from the center conductor. So basically, the idea is it would pick up any noise on the negative side, and
Right.
then it would go away. But as we know, that doesn't work so good, especially for the frequencies we're doing.
Right.
So video works great. That's why they do coax 75 ohm
Right,
and
Jason?
everything like that. It's a different frequency range, but in car, twisted pair is really the way to go. There'll be guys that are gonna want to argue that, well, if it's differential, blah blah blah, they're gonna want to use a coax. That's why nobody makes good coax. High-end coaxes, maybe straight wire or something. Are they even around anymore?
Mm.
You don't see high-end coax anymore.
Mm. So what would you think would be better, the 1000 style cable or a cheap twisted pair?
That's good. I would still go with a twisted pair.
You still go twisted pair. So
Absolutely.
even like a loosely twisted pair, you'd
Yeah.
rather have that over. Okay.
Yeah, in a car for sure.
Makes sense.
It's twisted pair. Like I said, even in those situations where the math or the science would tell you that a coax would normally be the better route.
Right.
In application, twisted pair works great still in that because it's still getting rid of all that noise or rejecting that noise, I should say.
So where does balance and unbalanced come into the equation?
So it depends on what your source unit is.
Okay.
So if your source unit's like even this amplifier we haven't even set up. So
No.
it has balanced and unbalanced
Yes.
right on it.
I know what you're probably going to want. Give me 1 second.
You're looking for the I was gonna say the paper.
No, my favorite toys, right here. I love these with all my heart. These are the best thing you guys ever came out with. So that's a standard
So that's basically this end off the 4000 series end.
Right.
This end right here, but with just 2 speaker wires hooked up to it. It's not directional because you don't
Right.
need that.
You don't
Because you're working with a much higher output signal, so this is a high level input to that amplifier, which now you got a true positive negative because it's coming out of an amplifier.
So that would be unbalanced or balanced?
Balanced.
So balanced.
So that's balanced because it's true positive and a true negative.
Right.
It doesn't go to the negative doesn't go to ground. It's a true negative.
Right.
So then you would put the amplifier on balance,
It's like that little
plug
switch
this
right there.
puppy in there, and you go right into it like a high level edge unit.
But we're going with a lot of voltage now.
High voltage, correct.
So why call it unbalanced and not just high level?
Because it's not, the negative isn't going to ground. It is a true negative.
Okay.
Where an RCA, this is in theoretic, it's going to ground.
Right.
The ground
Well, yeah,
shows.
because if you
Yeah.
meter through your RCA section,
it goes
to ground. And if it's a Pioneer and you blow the fuse, you solder it back together. Anyone gets that
but on
reference.
a balance, it's truly a positive and a negative, so it's not referenced to ground.
So I guess then the question would be: is Phoenix Gold calling it right, or is everyone else calling?
There'll always be a. There's always
That's
gonna
that
be a
debate. You guys just stood
Same
firm.
with the coax and the guys that are like, oh, high differential, we're only gonna use coax.
So a lot of amplifiers that use the RCA inputs as the high level or balanced input are actually balanced and not high level. They're just trying to keep the world easy.
On a better style amplifier.
Yes.
On an entry level amplifier that has it, you're actually switching over to a bunch of resistors and they're just cutting your power output down.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a cheap LOC.
Built in.
Right, which on an amplifier in nowadays cars you just burn up the input. So that actually is higher power capable input, and that's why you can do it at balanced, and that's why we have the switch on there.
Gotcha. And that's why you make these.
Yeah, makes it easy.
Makes it easy. Now, what if? So the question I've had is that if someone put this behind the radio and then ran a standard RCA, like a twisted pair or something like that,
Yeah.
and then plug that into the amplifier.
It's not going to do anything. You get you get benefit out of the twisted pair, but
Right.
most of the time you're picking that up in the back of the car. That'd be a rare occasion where they would make all those connections behind the radio.
It's rarity is kind of the thing.
Yeah. So, but in that instance, it would be fine. You'd have to put a barrel on that because we only make them in male for
Right.
that very reason. You would just really what I would do is I just run a longer speaker wire
Right.
and then connect that right at the amplifier.
Well, that's typical what I do is I just solder
Right.
these on and twist up a
Yeah.
18 gauge speaker.
Yeah, you're
wire.
not going to hurt anything by adding the twisted pair. That's
My
the
only
thing
thought
better.
would be, so now you're running 10 volts through that size RCA. Bad? Good?
No, well, ours would be fine. I mean, some of those really cheap cables are super thin, so they got like 3 strands of CCA wire in there. That's a different story, and there's no separation. You could have some crosstalk happening because they're so close to each other.
So do you rate how much voltage can go over the RCA?
No, we haven't.
No, I mean, no one's asked that question?
No, that's a great question. That's a great question.
Winner! Hey, give it to Dean. He'll break it.
Although back in the day we probably should have, because you'd sit the guys that would like hook a cap up and then they wouldn't ground the cap good, and then it would lose ground.
Yes.
It would ground to the cap.
Yes.
And then the connections on the cap would come off, and then it would light the RCA up all the way to the head unit, because now the RCA becomes the ground, because we said
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
the
It's the
RCA
ground.
is the ground. So the amp's looking for ground. It's trying to get 100 amps through this, and it turns it into a fuse.
And that's why we run batteries. That's why we run power and ground in Corvettes.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story.
So that's the kind of side.
So the basic twisted pair that we've come up with should have at least three wires visible through the shield.
Our entry level is
three.
It's
So that'd be the
directional.
minimum.
It's directional.
That'd be a minimum
In Stinger,
directional cable.
We have a 2-wire in Stinger Select. You gotta have.
But it's not directional
Right.
though.
It's not directional.
Because it can't be directional unless it has that third
Correct.
drain
Directional's
wire.
gotta have 3 connectors.
Because it needs the drain wire.
So like those 2 that I showed you, that was their
Yeah.
high end. Their highest end cable still doesn't have directional. So this is their mid level is 2.
Yeah.
Their high end is a shielded twisted pair, and then their entry level was a coax. But they're still, like I said, they're selling that cable for $140 for a 17-foot cable. But it looks pretty. Like if I didn't take all that off, you're like, oh, that's a pretty nice looking cable.
Right.
But
and
you're paying for aesthetics.
You can barely tell that it doesn't have the drain wire in it, and they're not saying that they're directional. They're just saying they're twisted.
No, they have some. They have like some crazy. They
have some
mumbo jumbo, on there.
Okay.
That says it does all this cool stuff, but it doesn't do any of that. So.
All right.
That's
So
unfortunate.
We've established then, for those of you that are looking at directional, that you need at least 3 wires in the cable.
Correct.
It's best not to have the big plastic ball in the center, but now we're going to look at something that does have the...
And we can explain why that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the next series of cables is...
So here, let's back up to just the...
Okay.
So like on the 4000 or the X1s, as you can see, like, I can split this cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has a little junction box here.
Yep.
But that is just so you can't keep splitting it.
Yeah, that's this right here. So on like the 4-channel and the 6-channel, it'll say F, R, and S. For
Correct.
front, rear, and sub. But you can cut them off. You just have to be real careful. Because it depends on how hot it was when they were putting those things on.
But here, I won't cut it all the way, but...
Fernando's already had Band-Aids today.
You can already see that it's clear through.
Okay, you can kind of see there, so yeah.
There's no
It's not a junction.
It's totally separate. So now you can split those into 2.
Yeah, see, it just peels off.
Yeah.
So
Yay.
you can, technically, if you needed to for some reason, you can make that a mono cable and run one or
And we
separate
have.
parts of the car.
Yeah, because we have. We
do it all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can turn that into a mono cable. Our 6000 series and also our X2s are also.
6000.
Yeah, here's the
Yeah,
6000.
And this is the X2. And you can make those into separate.
So yeah, this is like a full style piece of. I'm only going to say coaxial because it looks like a coaxial because it's thick like an actual piece of coaxial. But I can also see in the lighting that it's not a coaxial, it's braided.
All right, so that I don't have one.
What do we need?
Open. I was just that one is. It's similar to the way this is constructed, where it has like the twisted pair.
Yep.
And then it has a mylar shield, but it's also directional. So there's 3 conductors in there.
Now for this one's actually really easy to read the signal direction on it because it's white whiting on white. Jeez, white whiting, wascally wabbit.
Say that.
It's right. Jeez. White on blue writing, and then there's big arrows right here that point the direction it needs to go.
Right. So we throughout the line of cables we use heavier.
I got one open.
Okay, we use a little bit heavier conductor. Like if you look at like the size wires in this one and the size wires in that
Where did
one.
that come from?
That was like
Well, it's
I had it for a
ancient.
long time,
Okay.
but I save it.
All right. So now, all right. So we can see here we have 3 wires on each.
And
So
there's 2 shields that he had cut away
yep.
that are braided around that. So that's why that is so much thicker because you have
Yeah.
the twists are really tight, so it makes it fatter.
Hold on.
And then you have 2 braids. I got an Ulfa if you need a knife.
Yours looks sharp.
Well, I have the Ulfa and I have the other one, the fun one.
Hang on.
Fernando likes this one.
Yeah.
As an aside.
Now this is good though.
Okay. We're waiting out for him when he's done. All right. So we can twist off the.
So yeah, so your next line of defense is a mylar shield.
Here's the mylar shield.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right.
So yeah,
And then these are
directional twisted pair. And
very
then mylar
tightly
shield.
packed, twisted pairs. Okay. So the positive and negative, I'm assuming, are the insulated 2,
Correct.
and then this is the drain wire that is not.
Correct. And sometimes will depend on how we construct that. Sometimes it will be shield or it will have a jacket on it. Sometimes it will not. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
It's just the way it's constructed. Sometimes you put a jacket on it just so it makes it a little bit smoother. Since that's got the mylar shield on there, it doesn't need that, so we left it bare because there's no reason to make the cable even thicker.
And on one end, this would be attached only on one end.
Correct.
So like if I meter between here and here, we cut the wrong end.
50-50. 50-50 shot.
I gotta try it. Alright, keep talking.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so then you go,
Okay, so
that
we
one.
have this.
so then the next one up, this is where you'll get, well, whoa, wait, there's a big stopper. We've got a big stopper on this one. That's because this cable, this is a higher end cable, this is our X3. This is what we call a Siamese pair, or no, I'm sorry, these are Siamese pair. This is a mono jacket.
So if we were to hook up, this is the wrong end. So we have the end that would, we have the end here that goes towards the amplifier. So we have no continuity between the drain wire and the shield.
Yeah, that's the amplifier side, yeah.
So this would be the amplifier side.
Cool,
Oh,
right?
that's
There
cool.
you go.
Alright, wow, never thought to do that. Alright, I'm done. I've learned something
Okay.
new. I'm going home.
That's your new for the day. So, okay, so this one's a mono jacket,
Okay.
and it has a stopper, but it is only for transitional purposes, for aesthetics, right? So we get a transition from this pretty braid,
Mm-hmm.
and then we need something to be able to, so this is sealed in here, and then it goes to the jacket. So this is all over molded and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no solder joints. All of our cables are constructed that way. We don't do any solder joints in between them. Actually, we have a name for that. We call it C3 Tech.
C3 Tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's continuous connection.
Now this is done on the X3 and the 8000?
Correct.
Okay,
So you have the little stopper.
because they're very similar.
Yeah. You have and then
Is
when
this
you step-
copper? Or is it just like copper colored?
Copper plated.
Yeah, it's so sexy.
So then, what we do in the end is you step up to these. These are locking.
Okay. Yeah.
So you,
That would
you
be
put
this.
them on the amplifier and then
Ooh,
lock
yes.
it down.
Let's talk
Which
about that.
sometimes is a little bit different.
Go ahead.
You can do it that way. Sometimes it's hard to do because it wants to slide a little bit on the.
Right,
The whole reason
yeah.
you want a locking end is because it likes to slide on the end a little bit.
Mhm.
So what I do is I usually grab a little pair of pliers and I just put a little tweak in it and then I push it on, and then
Okay.
it's not coming off. Like all fairness,
Mhm.
I did that today before I was coming here,
Mhm.
and I ripped the RCAs right out of the amplifier.
Yeah, you can do that on some. It's
Because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna come and I was gonna swing the amp around because I used to do that in trainings. I used to lock it on and I used to spin the amp around, and I didn't have a smaller amp that I usually do it with, and I let go of the amp and it jerked so hard it snapped the RCAs right out of the amp. I'm like, well, I
Wow.
can't use that now.
the only
So
problem about
that'll be all right
sometimes
later.
with the locking RCAs is that because they're so close
You
together,
can't get on it.
yeah, you have a hard time twisting them on.
Right.
So it's like those always get you when you're in the back of a radio, and you're like, oh, come on, man,
Right,
and you're like,
right.
oh, those are locking, and then
Yeah.
you're like, get your little fingers in there, and you're just trying to like, I just need
But-
one turn.
That's the reason you want them though. So
Yeah,
they
they'll
don't
never
off.
come loose.
Coming off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't come off.
But so they have, it's kind of like those GM battery terminals we talk about that has the V shape to them. So this has a V shape to it, and as this, as this goes on, it closes the V in and closes the gaps between the little teeth along here, and gets a really nice
And it doesn't
bite.
take much. Like if I grab this with a pair of pliers and I put like a 1/16 of a turn,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when you push that on, it's not
and you're
coming
gonna be hating life.
off. Yeah.
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 So,
So what is inside of these?
so the big difference between so this is a shielded directional twisted pair.
One more time.
Shielded
Yep.
directional
Yep.
twisted pair.
Okay,
So
shielded
work
directional
backwards.
twisted.
So we got the twisted pair, the
Yep.
3 directional. So there's 3.
Yep.
Then we're gonna wrap mylar film around that. So that's gonna be shielded.
All right.
Okay.
So that's this. So it's shielded directional twisted pair.
Okay.
This is a double twisted directional twisted pair, and it has silver plated conductors.
All right, let's take those one at a time.
Okay.
Double twisted pair.
Right, so that's why it becomes a mono jacket.
Okay.
So imagine you took these, so we have a twisted bundle here,
Yep.
we have another twisted bundle here,
Yes.
and then we twist those bundles again around each other.
Okay.
So that's your double twist.
So that's what's
Okay.
happening,
So you
and
got
that's
this
what's
inside.
that's what's
So that's
happening
why it
inside
backs
of
up.
this part.
So
I
that's
see.
why it gets fat,
Yeah.
and it's together, so we don't have a mono or a
So
set
each
Siamese
end
pair.
is
Right.
twisted glass.
So it's wrapped around each other again.
So it's just like this, and then if I took these and I did...
Correct. Yeah.
If I took this and I went like this...
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
But without the shielding on it?
No, with the shielding.
So just like that?
Without the outer jacket.
Right, without the outer jacket, just
Correct.
with this Mylar part.
Yeah, so if you took these, like when you first did them and they were all twisted together,
Yeah.
and then twisted them around the other set.
Okay.
Right.
And then they would put an outer jacket on it.
Okay.
So that's why it gets a lot fatter.
So it's still 6 wires,
Yeah.
Correct.
2 Mylars, all
wrapped together.
double
wrapped.
twist.
Double twisted. Then the Mylars are wrapped. No, the Mylars are on the outside of those. So you got the
So it's like,
section
so it's more like the X1 or the 4000,
Right.
right.
and then style
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and that's why we have to have this. So you have to have somewhere to transition. all
Yeah,
that.
to take it all, to do this,
Mhm.
to do
Yeah.
what we're trying to do
Right.
here and have
So-
it come apart.
So, but we want to make sure that that's clean too, so that gets injection molded. So
Right.
that gets all put together. They put this sleeve over the bare wires, and then that gets molded together.
So there's
that's-
nothing soldered or connected
there's
anywhere
no
behind
solder
there.
in that, Yeah. So
That's just a ball of goo they put in there to
just
stop,
to make it all pretty.
because tape sucks.
Well, like, so just for another funny.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm not trying to keep bashing. That's why I didn't want to name anybody.
Yeah.
So this cable, they don't do that. They just put solder, or not solder, heat shrink. So they have a little piece of heat shrink on this side on theirs, and then they have a little piece of heat shrink here. Actually, the whole thing's a piece of heat shrink
Okay.
to this. That's their transition, is a heat shrink. So, that's cheap. But people see it in the package, they don't know it until it's too late.
No, that's kind of the whole.
So take my money.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Um,
Somebody asked, what's the difference between the X line and the number series, like 1000, 4000?
The biggest difference is going to be the ends and the cosmetics, right? So we got everything stepped up on the X. So you got gold ends, much more robust ends, like this whole piece is machined on a X3 or on a 6000. This piece is a stamped piece.
Mm-hmm.
This piece is metal. This piece is stamped. It's basically the same end that's on a 4,
Mm-hmm.
but with a metal piece. When you transition to this is much more. See, the end on this is much more robust.
Right. Yeah.
The end on this is all machined, so it's a much more positive connection.
let me see what you got.
Which one? This?
Yeah. So this is the end for the 4000.
Yeah.
And this is.
Which is a good end.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
I was
not
gonna
the
say.
4000.
Right.
It's not the X1 end. So.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But you can see there's a. Jesus, I'm having a hard time with it. It's backwards for me.
Back-
Put your
Right
hand, put your
there.
hand
I
up
know.
there.
So yeah, there's a slight difference. This is the one thing that's okay. The one thing that's really nice about the 4000 end is that it's so tiny.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy tiny.
It's crazy tiny. So it's like it goes in.
Easy to work.
And you guys
Yeah.
see how we zip tie and bend these. This is a little. This is a little bit longer.
We
so
did that specifically to get more contact pressure.
Mm-hmm.
on this one.
Yeah. So it has more to bite. It
Right.
has a little bit stronger end on it. And then again, gold plated.
So I mean,
costs
it's
money.
a
plated,
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as you can see, but the art. This
Those
part
are the
is
most
same.
similar of the.
Yeah,
like
these
those
are
are
the
the,
most
the
similar.
least different.
Yeah, because now it would be these ends
Those ends are full on machine.
would be
versus-
comparable to these ends.
Right.
Right.
So
There's not a comparison other than they sort of look the same.
these are a lot fatter. So, geez, okay, I'm gonna try this again. So,
The red one's a full machined end, so that the end piece is the machine part, where the
right.
the blue one is a stamped piece like the 4000.
Now, if you want to see these, obviously
in person.
Yeah.
better, they are on the website.
They're on the website. Yeah.
But so yeah,
That's pretty. That's pretty.
They're overmolded on the inside, so they don't unscrew.
yeah, they don't unscrew.
But again, all
Are they
the
not aluminum?
overmolds are all for the sake of integrity of the cable.
No, these are aluminum ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're both aluminum ends.
Yeah, but this is brass. This is all brass.
Yeah, well, yeah, the
Gold-plated
tips are brass.
yeah.
Yeah. So those are all gold. These are just
Those
silver.
are nickel,
Nickel.
or we call shot chrome.
Shock chrome. And then we
so
go
then
on.
finally, so the internally on this
Yes.
is the silver-plated conductors.
Yes, we were getting.
Because there's
Okay.
a cool thing, everybody can Google it after I say it, called the skin effect.
Okay.
Skin effect. Okay.
And it's
And what
not
that
related
dictates-
to porno.
Correct, yeah. Although we could probably turn it into something.
Anyway, moving on. Really?
The skin effect is frequency dependent.
Okay.
And based on frequency, the electricity wants to basically ride on the outside of the conductor.
Correct.
So, if you ever see, for a real world example, if you want to walk outside your house and you see high power lines,
Mm-hmm.
those are literally steel cables, which are crappy conductors, on the inside for strength, and the copper's only on the outside because the electricity rides on the outside of the cable. That's why they run high power.
And there's some crappy power wire manufacturers actually build power wire like that.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Where they put a plastic tube down the center of the wire
Yeah.
and then wrap the copper around the outside
Unfortunately,
of it.
the voltage is too low for that to make any difference on a power wire.
Right.
So, I should say it's not necessarily the voltage, but the frequency.
Right.
The frequency is too low for that to make much of a difference, but it's a cool gimmick.
It's a gimmick, and they
Yeah.
can sell cheaper wire.
Yeah. So, but as far as this goes, it's a scientific fact that's how it does. That's why they do it like that. So, hence silver being a better conductor. If we plate the outside of the conductor with silver, you're going to get to take advantage of that. And what that translates to is usually, if you look on it on RTA, you would see like a little bump in the high frequency pass through.
Okay.
So we like to say it's like wiping a window clean. Like it was a little hazy and you just kind of wiped it clean. It's a little bit of a tweak. For a guy that doesn't have an EQ or something like that, it's an audible difference. You're going to hear that high frequency is going to sound. Basically, you have less loss
Right.
because everything's a loss. You're starting at zero as your perfect superconductor. You're never going to get that. Every cable is going to have some sort of loss. We're trying to minimize those losses. So
Right.
the construction of the cable, using the heavier conductors, then using better conductors themselves, all translates into that signal path being less loss through the path, and us also not adding any colorization to that signal path. So keeping the conductor separate and all that, so we don't get crosstalk and things like that, where we don't want to color the sound. We don't want to alter it from the recording. That's our end goal, is to try to pass it as cleanly as possible.
So you said crosstalk twice, and there again, I know what it is, but what is crosstalk?
So crosstalk is, so if you have stereo
Yes.
and you have bleed over, so this channel, let's say it's, just for sake of argument, you got a 100 hertz tone on it.
Okay.
And this channel, you got a 5K tone on it. And they're close together, and you bounce all the way to the left for the 5K tone, but you're still getting some 100 hertz in there. That's
Right.
crosstalk. That's where
Okay.
it's bleeding over. The channels are bleeding over onto each other. So you don't get that full, you lose. And what happens when you listen to music, when that's happening, is if your sound stage was this wide, it compresses it because
now
you're
every-
losing your left-right separation, so it's shrinking your sound stage. So that's the result of what crosstalk does to your sound. You're not going to literally hear like it bleed over, but
No.
the impression shrinks.
So that holds true for just not RCAs. Crosstalk is kind of
It's in amplifiers. And
It's
all
in
that.
amplifiers, it's in processors. It's one of those things where you look at what a cheaper product compared to a more expensive product. Some people talk about the width.
Mhm.
It's like, it's up there and it's doing this, but the width is gone.
Yeah.
Well, that's because there's a lot of crosstalk happening, and you're, like you said, it's narrowing
Yeah,
that
and
performance.
it's an additive effect, right? So if you have a head
Yes.
unit that doesn't have good crosstalk, and then you add an RCA that has bad crosstalk,
So you
and
go
processor,
from wide to narrow real quick. You got a great center image, but
Yeah.
that's it.
My center channel sounds like she's on the hood.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty amazing.
So that's a cause and effect kind of deal.
Right. Now, naturally, so that takes us through all the what we call, I guess, consumer grade cables.
Yeah, and I mean, again, not for nothing, but this is probably higher end than most any of our competitors. Like nobody really makes anything better than this cable, and then we already have this one.
And they make it in a 6-channel 9-footer, which I just figured out. So I'm really excited
Pretty
about
stoked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I am super stoked. So that brings us to the cable that kept you up at night.
The big boy.
That's the 9000. So, you know, you have good, better, best, and then you have the best. The best that you can do and hope to sell.
Uncompromised, no compromise cable.
Yeah, for car audio.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the 9000.
Mhm.
Let me grab this so I can kind of do it close up. So let's talk about the 9000 because it looks like everything that we just looked at, just more. So it has the braided as the X3 and the 8000, but then it takes it all the way down to the tip. It has, if you unscrew these big ends here, it has the V shape to it, so it has the compression end. But is this shot chrome or is this silver?
It's neither. It's rhodium.
What is rhodium?
Rhodium is the closest thing to gold or platinum in conductivity.
Okay. Now I also noticed that there's a like I'm buying ketchup wrapper around this that I have to peel off.
So that's one of the indicators. Like, so if that was a longer cable, that was the part that you would run through the vehicle.
So
you
this
don't
doesn't get all
it up.
scratched up.
Yeah.
So there you go. What is there's braiding on here that you guys can't see, but what is the braiding on here?
That is it's carbon fiber. It's real carbon fiber insert.
Okay.
And what that is, it's just neutral, right? So you get, because we needed a bigger end because of everything that's going on in here.
Right.
We didn't want to add a giant piece of metal that becomes an antenna.
Okay.
So we used the carbon fiber to take up some of that space, but still give us the real estate we needed, but take up some of that space without having a bunch of metal that's, again, acting like an antenna. This was totally designed with, you know, we're talking
Let me see that.
an equivalent cable in home.
So this is
You might think I'm crazy. We're like $5,000 a meter
So these are the directional. These are
with
directional.
those same ends on there.
Now let's talk about. So I'm feeling this, and there feels like there's a lot going on in here. And well, obviously this just.
So if you
feels like
took
I
this
could kill
cable,
somebody.
if you took the X3
The X3.
and you did everything that we said that's in here, so you have
Right.
your 6 conductors,
6 conductors
so 2 channels,
for 2 channels.
and this is silver plated. Let's say we just made this copper,
Okay.
and then we made another one just like it, and we made it pure silver, and then we went ahead and just put them together and made 2 channels. So that's what this is. So you have,
So let's run through the
you
numbers.
have 12 conductors,
12 conductors. So that's essential.
So
Yeah, but-
6 and 6?
6 for left, 6 for right.
Okay.
Okay.
You have,
Or a 6-channel RCA.
yeah, so that's why it's so big.
Yeah.
It has separate conductors for positive, negative, and silver, separate conductors for positive, negative, and copper, and then it has a drain shield for each one of those, and then those are twisted together,
Okay.
and then they're twisted together, then
Again.
those 2 bundles are twisted together again,
Right.
and then we do that again for the other channel.
So each RCA tip is the equivalent of a 6-channel RCA.
Correct.
Well, there you go. All right.
And that is, so you get the benefit of both, right? So we talked about how the higher frequencies like the skin effect, right? They
Yes.
like to travel along that. Well, we wanted a nice, big, fat, robust path for all the other frequencies. So we have pure copper for it's going to naturally want to run along the copper conductors.
So which frequencies work better with pure copper?
It depends on the length and it depends on the frequency. So all those things come into play, but it's typically 8,000 and down, like the copper better, and everything around that area for argument's sake are high.
Right. Okay.
So we wanted both. We wanted that huge low end impact that
Right.
you have with a nice big robust copper conductor, and still have that extended high end that you get with a silver conductor, and a pure silver, not a copper or a silver. So we basically just split it off and made them both have their own path, and everything will go along the path it feels. It's going to go along the path of least resistance.
Right. Whatever
So-
works best for it, it'll figure
So we
it
have
out.
the least amount of loss. Again, we're trying to not color the sound, not enhance the sound. We're trying to trying not to lose anything along the pathway.
Right.
And there's a ton of funny, I think they're funny stories because I'm in the industry of people using these cables, and then you get a phone call and they're like, man, I switched out to these cables and I have noise now. Your cable's noisy. You know what? And we'll be like, yeah, the cable doesn't make any noise, but we'll go ahead and troubleshoot it with you. And, you know, like one we had, I talked about last time with Randy.
Yeah, Randy Sports. Yep.
We cut cables open, we did everything, and then it ended up being a relay in the car that was causing the noise, and they switched the relay out and it went away. But it wasn't there with the other cables because basically they're narrowing the bandwidth of what's transmitting to the...
Right.
So they're your weak link at that point. So you're like, well, I didn't have any high frequency noise before. Well, that's because you weren't hearing anything in that bandwidth. Like if you looked at an RCA, you had a drop off. With our cable, it's passing all that, so now you hear it. So
Right.
it's
So the RCA was acting as a high pass crossover.
yeah, exactly. So
There you go.
This, as great as these are, they are going to find the weak link in your system because they're going to pass everything.
Right.
So real quick, I'll answer this one. This one's funny. Did they say why Stinger doesn't make all male and Y adapters? Money. Comes down to money. They're not going to sell a ton of them. If they're not going to sell a ton of them, they're not going to make them. It's the same thing we get all the time. Like when you were coming out with the X series, they made this. You asked for everything,
Of course.
and they were like, "We'll give you this," because you know we saw the whole list of the cables. You go, oh, "Look what I'm asking for," and they were like, "No, you're gonna get the 17-footer. You're gonna get the 12-footer."
We ran down, and,
Yeah.
and we ran down, you know.
How many are we gonna sell?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, you see a 6-foot cable, and to run it, you're going to have a year and a half of inventory. They're not going to do that.
Right.
No.
Right.
Where we're going to turn our inventory every 3 weeks or something ridiculous on a
Right.
17-footer. So it's just, eventually sometimes we'll get them. Like if we have somebody that needs a bunch of them, then we can kind of force it in.
Right.
But if you're not selling that many, then there really isn't a need. It's a niche.
Right.
Right.
So that's like the Y connectors. They're expensive on a 9000.
Oh yeah.
So they come with 2 because you're always
gonna need
Yeah.
2. So
Right.
there's 2 in the box.
Which makes sense.
But that's an anomaly. Like we don't do that with anything
Don't do that
else.
with any other cable. Now, one other thing that so RCA's are great,
They are great.
and did we cover everything on the 9000?
There's one other just little
Yeah,
funny thing.
let's cover all these.
So we're talking about crosstalk,
Yes.
and we wanted to like take it to the nth degree. So if we were designing some crazy home system that's $1 million or something like the Coaxial system we got to listen to
Yeah.
at Knowledge Fest, one of the other things is elevate and separate.
Yeah, they like the they have the little matchbox highways that go
Right.
along to hold the wiring.
So not every 9000 series comes with an elevate and separate block. So because if you're going to run multiple, you're going to get multiple blocks.
Right.
So you can run them down the pathway, and then you can.
That's what
the
that's.
screws
Oh,
down.
so that's step 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes with one because each one comes with more
Right.
of
So
them.
you'd have. So if you do multiple cables, you'd have one there, and then you put another one.
See, I would
Yeah.
just build little plastic risers all
Yeah.
along my ABS
That's cool.
ramps
Zip
with
ties.
zip ties and you know.
It's just one of those cool things that
Yeah.
you know we added there. Or some people just use it right at the transition, right before the amp, so they have like multi channels
Yeah.
and stack
And
them.
then some people don't use them at all, and they just stack all the
Yeah,
RCAs
so-
on top of one
yeah.
another. And then you go, really?
But there's so much shielding and everything in there. It's I mean, you're talking minuscule amount of benefit. but
Right.
If you want to get every possible thing you can get out of that cable, I mean, you spent the money on them,
Right.
use them.
Oh man. Wow.
So the future, as they might say, whether it's debatable or not, because it's been around forever, is the Toslink interconnect.
Yeah.
So you guys got this in the X series. This was kind of like, yay!
Yeah. That was almost got fired. Almost got fired cable. Yeah.
So, what is this as opposed to an RCA?
Well, the beauty about that, it's light.
So inside of
it
this
transmits
is a
light.
tube, a light tube.
It's a fiber optic cable, so it's polished on the end. So that's one of the unique things we did. It's triple polished on the end
Yeah,
to allow the light to transmit through it without any interruption. We made it for car. You know, it's the cable's super flexible. Yeah, if you have one out.
I got one.
But the beauty of it is, there's
kind of looks like an RCA.
You're not going to get any noise on it because it's light.
Yeah.
You're not going to influence it unless you break the cable, and then it's not going to get any signal at all.
Correct. Yeah.
So what is it actually made out of? Do you know you know what
it's
kind
glass.
Is it glass?
Yeah.
It's really flexible glass.
Yeah, it's
Like glass?
No, it's like this. I forget what the term is for it.
So when it comes like this,
you just don't want to ever kink it.
yeah, you don't really want to go crazy. Like we're always
Don't
like
put zip ties.
super careful not to treat it like it's
Glass
an
fiber.
antenna.
Right.
You can't bend it in half.
No, and you don't want to pinch. I mean,
It's always loops. You always want to, if you gotta make a
Just-
transition, you just put a loop in it.
now there's no crosstalk.
No crosstalk, no engine noise, unless you have it in one of your other components.
Correct. Which is the funny part.
Yeah.
So the Elevate, which is sitting down there, has an output for this,
Correct. Which you can go to our or somebody else's DSP.
which is also over there on the
Yeah.
other side of you.
So at least from there, there's no chance of noise.
So the long run.
Correct. That's what I would suggest. I would do the longest run with a Toslink. And actually the same way with the other cables. If you were going to do a processor, I know your head unit probably has front rear sub.
Right.
Don't run front rear sub out of it. Run one channel, one pair of channels out of that to your processor and use your processor's
Based
front
on
rear sub for those adjustments, because it's just less chance of noise for that full run. And you know, it's going to save you some money too. You don't need three 17-footers to go to a processor.
Pay no attention to him. You need three 9,000s all the way
You
back.
still need three
front to back.
9,000s,
Definitely.
just it'll be after the processor.
Oh, then you need more.
You need
Oh,
six.
I forget. Somebody just posted a really sick install on Car Audio Addiction site, and it was all 9,000s. I was gonna ask him for permission to post it, and I can't remember. He did it.
Shame on you.
I'll just go through my feed.
Well,
Yeah.
When we install this system, we're gonna put 9,000.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, I think so.
This
He's
guy's
just gonna
funny.
call me. I need
I was going to say.
9,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I know the car only needs 3, but I need 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the rest is gonna be for me.
So,
No.
all right, let's talk real quick about, are you a fan of Toslink?
I love Toslink, but
Okay.
it needs, the amplifier manufacturers, including ourselves, need to buck up and have a Toslink in,
Right.
which is probably never going to happen.
No.
So we're going to be relegated to short runs, or at least the main run from head unit to processor, and then RCAs will still hang down.
So you said short run, and that was one of the things that you and I both agree on, is that we need a half-footer, a 1-footer, a 1.5-footer,
totally
a
agree.
2-footer, 2.5-footer, and 3-footer, which we have a 3-footer and we have a 1.5-footer, but we need
Yeah,
all the
something in the
pieces
middle.
in between. And the thing is we can ask all we want, and even you working for the company can sit there and ask all you want.
Yeah.
But like you were talking about the 6-footer, if you make one order and it lasts 18 months, we're never going to get those size cables.
Yeah. So what happens is, it's supply and demand, right? So if guys are calling in, I need a 1-footer, the salesmen get tired of hearing it, and then they tell us, or they mention it in a meeting when there's people that make
Right.
those decisions.
Right.
One
And then-
footer RCA.
And then all of a sudden we have a 1-foot RCA. When nobody's asking for it, or when it's that part becomes corporate. It's
Right.
if nobody's asking for it, and
And
you
it's
get
just
it.
not you.
It's
There's
not priority.
literally nobody that makes those cables.
And that's the exact reason why. There
Right.
wasn't a demand for it. If the
Right.
demand is there, which I understand there is now, and that's why I was pushing for having those,
Right.
is, amplifiers are getting closer to the process, a lot more
Right.
processors are being done, they're being short runs, this and that.
So
There's
the
a
moral,
demand there.
the moral to this is that when you guys are like deciding to put in your processors and your amplifiers, and the shortest thing you can get is 1.5 feet, and you're cool with just coiling it up like this and putting it in the back, don't send a strongly worded email to Amp Global saying, hey man, I'm buying your cables because I get the right size, or whoever you like. So if you guys all send them to the competitor that makes those cables that aren't so hot, because you could probably figure out who that is, and send them. Once they make them, then amp will be right behind them making them. So the point is whoever your favorite cable manufacturer is, send them a strongly opinionated email expressing your desire to have a shorter RCA to reduce things like noise and whatnot. And then once someone, it only took Walmart deciding to open up on Sunday to ruin Thanksgiving for everybody. Oh wait, that was too political. To ruin Sundays for everybody. But now we all love it. And we're all like, hey, let's go, except for Chick-fil-A. They hold firm. They're not opening on Sundays.
There's a good question there on the Toslink.
Go ahead. What is it?
It says, I'm using a Toslink for my source unit, or from my source to my Audison DSP. Do I still need a line driver for the RCA output? What's the output of the DSP? If it's 8 volts or better, no.
Yeah, and it's an Audison, so you should be fine.
Should be good.
Yep.
And what kind of amps are you using? Because, I mean, if you're using an Audison amp, you can actually buy the new preamp section to go Toslink directly into the amplifier. So Audison is one of the only amplifier manufacturers that you can pull the RCAs out and plug in a Toslink input.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
you can do a full bit all the way front to back. So if you get like a Voce, you just buy the internals. And you
Yeah.
yeah.
If you have that, you can buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
Probably.
No,
Anyway.
Voce's not that expensive. It's not like crazy money
Not
amplifier.
crazy?
No, they're sub $1,500 amplifier.
Oh.
Baller over here.
No, dude, hey, look,
That's not bad.
it's not bad. Okay, it's a Voce. It's Italian made, not Chinese. It's for $1,500 to $2,000 is a really good deal. Okay, I mean, it's not my Korean board. Don't get me wrong.
I'm just
But
Audison
not
amps.
using Audison amps. Okay, so there you go. But yeah, that is the one nice thing. And then, like when you look at all the little DSP amplifiers now that are coming out, little 8 channels, they all have Toslink input. So right out of the Elevate directly into those amplifiers, multi-channel, good to go.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of funny because they do an RCA loop for the sub amp. It's like, but there again, it's cost.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
something up for
And the shortest RCA they have is 1.5 feet. Even though the amps are designed to stack on top of one another.
So you handle. It's a handle.
Yeah, it is. It's
So
a
you can
purse.
grab
It's
both
not a
of
handle,
them.
it's
Yeah.
a purse.
First.
But
Immerse.
immerse. Was that an amp purse?
No, that's a man purse.
I'm not up on that. He knew with that. He knew what that was.
Handbag.
All right.
All right. So did we hit everything that you wanted to hit? Go ahead if not.
There's actually a little, like an aside.
Yes.
I thought would be good.
Yes.
So, let's say you're doing that differential output, or you're having to use a line level or something of that nature.
Okay.
We have a piece that's super cool, and people always forget about it.
What is it?
It's a pack piece. It's the PDLC21.
What is that?
It is It's a 2-channel line output converter, but it can also be used as a line driver.
Oh yeah. We put one in the BMW we did because we needed a like.
It does 10 volts.
Yes.
So basically, the gains on your amp are off. Your noise floor is
Gone.
Next
Give me
to
that
nil.
model number again.
PDLC21.
PDLC21.
So that's a cool piece. Like, obviously, if it's a higher end car or newer car and there's a amp pro for it, that's a different story.
Right.
Right.
But
Because then you can buy the Toslink and go.
right,
Mhm.
you can go Toslink. But if it's something older that doesn't have that as a benefit, and you want a really cool, clean signal, again, you're going to a processor anyway.
Right.
2 channels, inexpensive, 10 volt output, no chance of noise, golden.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, there we go. The last
So
plug
a
of the
little love
night.
for my pack guys.
Make
today.
Nathan proud of you.
Yeah, that was my part.
Never mind.
It's on my watch.
It was on your watch. Okay, so this has been the RCA show. Thank
Yeah,
you for
it's been
coming
an hour.
on and
Wow.
giving
Oh,
us the
they didn't like
RCA
me.
show.
They said bring in Jeff Smith.
Well, of course. He's been out of town. He just got back in town today.
He was in
up-
the office today.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
he was. Well, yeah, because he went to the. I poked fun at him because this weekend I went to not knowledge. This weekend I went to Slam Fest, all these fests, and he was up at the Champion up in Louisville, Kentucky, doing the championships up there. So I sent him a video of what I was looking at, and he sent me a video of what he was looking at. So
course.
mine was a SUV with. 815s and louds out the wazoo, screaming some stuff, and he sent me a picture of some A-pillars.
Nice.
I was like, you suck.
I can send you the pictures of Steel Panther, so there's always that.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in on this YouTube special event where we got to talk about RCAs. I know we talked about Stinger RCAs, but most of the ideas and most of the concepts that we talk about will allow you to go through and look at all that, ideas. Mm-hmm. The concepts are there, so it doesn't matter whether it's a Stinger or someone else. Now you know what to look for, and we'll leave it at that. We all good?
We get to do a sound damping one next? Because I'm hot for that one.
You want to do a sound damping?
Oh, yes.
Why do you want to do sound damping?
Because there's so much garbage on the market right now. So much garbage.
Yeah.
Sound dampening.
All right, we'll schedule that maybe for when it gets cold. When it gets cold out, we'll talk about sound dampening.
Right now it's hot.
Yeah, I still like the video you did where you put it underneath the floor mat, where you cut the piece out and just put it underneath the floor mat.
Oh yeah, that's the easiest way for the carpet pad.
Yeah, the carpet pad.
Your floor mat's a template.
Yeah.
You're also the door skin's a template.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
Did you see the one where I bought all the generic ones and then we stuck them on a piece of metal and then they didn't stick and I was like, oh, this one sucks, and oh, this one.
Yeah, well, that got you in trouble.
Only with
They got you hate.
Hushmat.
They got you hate.
Only from Hushmat, guys.
Yeah.
I wasn't going after him. I just the video was a joke. It was
Yeah.
fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you
right,
so
guys.
much for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I'm having a hard time tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.